This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, excited to be here with you today. Scott Carson here, everybody. You guys know how much I love marketing, how I believe it's the true lifeblood of every business. No matter whether you're selling tiddlywinks or selling notes, you've got to be marketing. And I know so many people that come from a non-marketing background. They're used to doing your career, your job, you're punching the clock, you're doing something. And when you get into the real estate, the true entrepreneurship of what you're doing in the note business or the real estate space, you got to kind of develop some skills. You got to start developing some things. So I'm honored to have a very special guest on here today. He is a marketing strategist who trains business professionals on the things that make marketing work and how to eliminate the things that are killing your marketing efforts. Just recently heard him speak in Denver at Aaron Young's Magnifier Wealth seminar and conference, and absolutely just enjoyed how he talked and what he shared. And I love that when he starts off telling you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. And for many people, they are doing it wrong. So we are honored to have the one, the only Mr. Randy Dickenson join us here on the Note Closer Show. What is going on, Randy? How's your Friday going today?
Hey, Scott, great. Wonderful day. It's wonderful here in Southern California. We don't have much heat yet. We're not having bugs like they are on the East Coast. We don't have the high humidity. Going to the ocean tomorrow. I mean, you can't beat stuff like that. Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day here in Austin as well, too. But, Randy, you and I were talking beforehand a lot of how a lot of people make mistakes. They have this great grandiose idea, writing a book, or I've got an idea for something, but they don't really have a plan, right?
Yeah.
And let's talk about how important that is, whether it's a marketing or a business plan a little bit. Let's start off there, huh?
Well, what's amazing is today, unlike ever before, you can start a business. You can tell a few people, and within 12 months, you can be a millionaire. And we've all known people or seen people. We've heard stories that Bill Gates didn't go to college, that Zuckerberg didn't go to college. And so everybody says, I can do that too. And so there is that real positive energy that this can be done. And there's no question it can be. But those guys, even though they accomplished it, they didn't do it without a plan. They didn't do it without marketing. They didn't do it with a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you never see and hear about. So you go on the internet and someone says, hey, if you do these three things, you're going to have $1 million and you'll never have to work and you can sit on the beach. And they're marketing to you, and people so want it, they buy into that. Mm-hmm. So let's be honest. If you don't have a plan, you'll get exactly what you planned for. Nothing. Mm-hmm. It's hit and miss. You're rolling the dice every single day, and you may get lucky. You may get lucky 2 or 3 days in a row, but on day 4, you don't know why it went wrong days 1, 2, and 3. And so you're starting over every single day. You have no leverage, no ability to anticipate because you didn't plan anything. So don't go out there without a business plan, without a marketing plan. Know what you're doing ahead of time. It doesn't take long. It's not rocket science. It just requires a little bit of effort.
Now, when you talk about how people are doing things wrong, let's dive into that a little bit. I heard you, but our listeners out there did. So let's share a little bit about how people are doing things wrong, besides not having a plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the number one thing that people do when they do it wrong is we get excited about what we've learned, what we know, what we can accomplish, what we do. And so when I've got all this information and knowledge, what I do is I run to the internet, or I run to my website or my email, and I'm going to tell you about it. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm Randy Dickenson. I'm 45 years old, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've learned all these things, and I've gone to Tony Robbins, and we learned this, and now I'm putting it all together, and I can show you how to do it in 3 steps, what I'm doing. And for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything in the world about what I'm doing and how much I can help you. And after a while, the people go, I really don't care about you, Randy. You see, I'm sitting here at home, and my daughter's sick, and I don't know if she's got COVID, a flu, or cancer. And what I'm really trying to figure out is, can you help me? So thanks for all the information, but I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And they don't listen for 5 minutes. They listen for 4 seconds. And so the biggest mistake people make is they think that people care about what they're doing, and they don't. I mean, I don't, honestly, Scott, if you think about it, when people come to you, they really don't care about you, but they love what you can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to interest anybody in your business or your marketing at all, you need to tell them what I'm going to do for you or what you're going to get from it, not about yourself. Later on, they may ask you, but up front, the number one thing people do wrong is they make themselves the hero of the story. And you're not the hero, the client is. You're just the Yoda. And you think of Star Wars, and you think of Mark Hamill, or you think of Luke Skywalker. He's bouncing all around, up and down, and making mistakes and doing all the things. Yoda, always in the background, steady, confident, and sure. He's the guide. And he guides him through the problem, helps him when he's up, makes sure he keeps his focus. When he's down, he elevates him back up again. But he never, ever is the hero. Yoda never gets the glory. Mark gets the glory, but the guide's the one that makes it happen. So in your marketing, in your business, be a guide, be the guide. That's probably the biggest thing, that if people could change that, their business would change. No doubt about it.
That's one of the great things I think we've all seen that and been on stages, especially different stages. People get up there in the first 15 minutes or how awesome they are, and they lose the audience so quickly. Because and I think a lot of people, I see this in the financial world too, a lot. As an ex-financial advisor, we have that in common, and an ex-banker. Because it would always just like make me cringe when I'd bring in a financial advisor, somebody helping my client as a banker, and they start going into all these deep, crazy things, PE ratios and all this stuff, and my client's eyes just glass over, like, I'm confused. And a confused mind is a no mind that either hangs up or swipes right or goes on to something else or checks out, goes to their phone to find something else to get their attention. And you're exactly right. What's in it for me, is what the people are thinking. You've got to keep that in mind when you're speaking. What are some of the tools or tips that you tell people how to get to that what's in it for me quickly?
Well, a couple of things. When you think of, let's just use website, because that's really the biggest marketing piece that most people have today. And since it can be done quickly, you can spend $7, $8 to get a hosting account. You can go to Wix or buy a actually, you don't even have to buy a WordPress. If you get your hosting account, it's free. They'll give you a template for it. You can throw up a site. So for less than $100 a year, you can look as powerful as a $10 million company. And everybody knows that now. So now you show up on this website, and now you have an opportunity in 4 seconds to convince somebody that what you're talking about is going to be valuable. So I think a tip, one of the biggest tips I think is you need to understand your audience and what do they care about. If it's not about you, then what is it that they care about? Because if I'm selling, I do coaching and consulting and things like that. But if I'm talking to another coach, and I don't care how good my ideas are, he's not looking for coaching. He's looking for clients. So he might talk to me and he's nodding his head thinking, that's great, great, great. He's thinking, man, if I keep talking to him, I'm not going to have time to get some clients. And he's not hearing me. So the number one thing I'd say you do is know exactly what your clients are looking for. What problem can you solve? There's a number of ways we say that. What does your client lay awake at night thinking about, or when he and his wife have, or she and his wife or husband have pillow talk, what do they talk about at night? The secret stuff. That's the stuff that they really are looking to solve when they get up in the morning. So if you're that guy, then they flock to find you. So if you were going to market, if you could market nothing but solutions to the world, if you had the solution for whatever it was and people could figure out how to find you, you'd never have a problem getting a client or making a sale. But people don't. They'd rather talk about themselves. They talk about their cool process, all these neat tools they bought. They put in pop-ups. They do all those things to distract you, to get you to sign up and do something, when all people want to know is, can you solve this problem? And when you do, what's it going to be like for me at the end when I'm all done? Mm-hmm. If you imagine you hurt yourself and you go to a doctor for surgery, you're thinking, doc, is this going to take away the pain? And when I wake up, am I going to be able to walk again or run again or lift weights again? What's the end result when I'm done? And if he says, yeah, when this is over, you're going to be able to lift your weights again and you're never going to feel any pain again. And you sign the dotted line. That's all you wanted to know. All the other stuff you don't really care about. His degrees, where he went to school, as long as he's competent and he can do it, you're there. And that's, I think people overcomplicate the issue.
Yeah. I think most people do overcomplicate it, make it more complicated, drag it out a lot longer than things need to be. And I think if you get to I'm a big believer of the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean?
Well, and we've all, go to the internet and we scour it. And if you look 20 or 30 years ago, I'm 68, so 30 years ago, I was still in my prime then, right? And if you just said, Randy, do you have a funnel? I'd have gone out to my 1971 Toyota and looked at an oil change funnel. And that's what I would have been thinking about. Funnels didn't exist. People didn't get distracted with funnels. And as I talked on this weekend that before TV, advertisers spent a lot of time educating you, explaining what they didn't talk about the competition. They didn't worry about that. They told you what they did and how they did it. And then when TV came along, they learned how to get real creative in 30 seconds. And all of a sudden now there's no education. You could go into TV and there's a lot of products there you and I see, and we don't have a clue what they do. They don't educate us anymore. They don't engage us. They don't bring us to a point where we're intelligent and we can make a decision. So the guy that does that in his marketing now is uncommon. And what you want to be in the marketplace, I guess you could call this our second tip, is what can I do that sets me apart from everybody else? Because if you use the same language as everybody, the same jargon as everybody else, then the listener says, well, if you talk like everybody else, you sound like everybody else, then you must do what everybody else does. So if that's the case, well, then what's your price? Because if you're all the same, I'm going to get the best price I can. You're a nice guy, but you're not $50 cheaper. So I'm going to go with the other guy. So you got to figure out, what is it that I do that sets me apart from everybody else? And you know what? People don't think about that.
That's what they call the unique selling proposition for those out there.
There's all kinds of language, but when you said, keep it simple, its bottom line is, you could say, Randy, why should I do business with you? I mean, if you were a plumber, there's 28 plumbers in the phone book in my city. Why should I use you versus the other guy? And if you can't answer that question, he goes, well, if you can't answer it, I'm not going to be your guinea pig. And people wonder why they don't get enough business. And they don't spend any time on it, Scott. They don't think about it. And you say, how can you have a business where you don't think about the thing that you do that's going to get you business more than anything? And then, Scott, what happens when you go through a COVID time and times get rough? What's the number one thing people quit doing? Marketing. I can't afford marketing. What's marketing supposed to do for you? Well, get you more customers, but I can't afford to get more customers. So I'll quit doing that. Then they go out of business and they wonder what happened.
That's so true. People cut the marketing. And that's one thing I think has helped us make us so successful and good at what we do, is we have a marketing first mindset versus, hey, I'll fit the marketing around my clients, around everything else. Because you asked me something like, well, when you were scheduling, do you do these every day? I was like, we try to do a podcast episode every day for the most part, either me being on somebody's podcast or having somebody on mine. And that's our kind of a driving factor. How are we getting the word out to the audiences and the audiences out there about who we are and what we're doing and how we can help them? And so many people, we'll get to it later on, or I'll never get to it, when is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Or the number one answer I often get is why they're not marketing, and says, well, I work on referrals. I work word of mouth. And of course I say, how'd that work for you last year? Well, it didn't work last year. So what are you doing now? Well, now it's why I'm talking to you, because I need some help. And yet, if they'd have been continuing their marketing throughout the year, now marketing changed, there's no question about it, but it didn't go away. You marketed last year. I marketed last year. We're still in business. Surprise, surprise.
Exactly. And that pain point became different for many people.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I think people forget about, is they keep doing the same thing that they were doing 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or trying to market like they did. All this, we're not going to change. You have to change what you're doing, depending on what's going on in the market, depending on what your audience is looking like, depending on what your focus is. You've got to tweak things on an ever constant basis for the most part.
One interesting thing that we're not saying, but it's behind the scenes here. When you go into business, to start any business, there's a reason and a purpose that you go into business. And if it's not client centric, in other words, it's not about helping someone achieve or accomplish, then then your business starts to spiral down from the very, very beginning, because marketing then says, what can I do? What problem can I solve? Well, if you're going into business and it's all about making money for you, then when it comes to solve that marketing question, you don't have an answer. You don't have anything to talk about on your website, because it's, hey, come buy from me so I can go buy a yacht. Come buy from me so I can buy this car I'm standing next to. And people now are seeing through that. So at the very beginning, it's kind of like a, come to Jesus moment. Says, what are you doing with your life? Are you here to serve, or are you here to make a buck? And they're not mutually exclusive. It's not like you can't make a buck. But if your energy is going all toward making the buck, people are saying, I just don't want to spend my time with those kinds of people. So I think COVID really has forced a lot of people to start thinking, man, if I'm going to go back, I've got to have a reason, because people, when push came to shove, they had to choose feed my family or in business. And, they chose what they needed to. And if you were about making a buck, you were done.
Well, and if you look at we see that in real estate, we see that in marketing. If it's all, people can read between the lines, they can sense it. If it's all about you making the buck, you might make some money at first, but you're not going to be long term, because you really don't have, you haven't built that following or that trust really in delivering content or delivering value, versus the value only going into your pocket and not being exchanged for something that the client needs or problems being solved.
If I can go to point 3, and one of the things we talked about this weekend, and it's what you do in your business as well, is anyone that really wants to get ahead and succeed and not just be common, at some level needs, whether you want to call it coaching, whether you call it consulting help or counseling, you can't know enough by yourself. And we all do. We need good help. And if we removed all the help from our lives, that means there'd be no trash, there'd be no water guy, there'd be no electrician. We'd die in 7 days. So you got to get good help. And you're not saying to the world, oh, don't use me because I had to get help. I mean, Tiger Woods has more help than probably anybody ever got. Anybody that that's the Tony Robbins of the world, he had his mentors and he had his good help, and everybody that's followed him has good help above. So the most successful is saying, hey, it's not about me. It's about getting to the point where I can help others, and there's some other people that help me help. So I'm all about paying for good help, because that puts me 10 steps ahead of my competition. They can't do what I do because I was taught by someone that was taught by somebody. And so that little line, that little heredity line there, puts me in a situation and place that no one else can compete against. So get good help, whatever you're doing, get good help. Even if it can be free, but get good help. Read a book. I'm sure do you recommend books to your clients?
All the freaking time, man. And because it's so many lessons they're learning can be passed on in a variety of fashion. And I think that's really, books can be a mapping to overcoming obstacles or avoiding pitfalls, more so in a lot of cases. And that's, like I said, Seth Godin, I'm a big fan of Seth Godin. Mm-hmm. Talked to him via email a couple of times, but that guy, he's been a mentor, whether he knows it or not, for years for me. Same thing from Jim Rohn, as well as, some of those names out there for you. I had a good chance to have Mark Victor Hansen on my podcast a few months ago, and he has been a guide for almost 20 years now in a variety of ways.
Yeah. I got to go on stage, a mini stage with Zig Ziglar.
Oh, nice.
And, the guy was a prince of a guy, just a prince of a guy. But when he talked, he just exuded knowledge. It just dripped off him, and you just wanted to be close to it, because you realized there wasn't wasted words. He wasn't full of himself in any way, shape, or form. He was out to help people, and being around him, you just realized, I'm a better person because. Mm-hmm. And imagine how wonderful your business would be is if the comments that people made, I'm a better person because I'm around Scott. I mean, who wouldn't want to do business with you if that's how everybody felt about you? Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the missing thing in our marketing messages today. We're so caught up with the business side, call it marketing, call it business, and all that strategies and having funnels and, having all the various softwares, that some of the basic things of, how to win friends and influence people, some of those just tried and true philosophies that just people reaching people, hearts touching hearts. And that's the beginning of commerce. People want to do business with people they feel good with, and people that they trust. And you can't get that if all you're doing is worrying about money. It just doesn't happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Well, one of the things I think you and I are both talking about here, and we're not really saying, but it's the listening to your clients. It's listening to the people out there versus just shouting at them for them to listen to you. You're actually asking questions and then shutting up to listen to what they're going to tell you. Because I think we all know that if you market effectively, people will tell you what they want, how they want to be marketed to. People will tell you what they need help with. And it's not so much about what we think, being the people. And here's the thing, in teaching and webinars, I've always seen that when I thought of an issue and it bombed, it's not because I thought it was so great, it's because it wasn't valuable to my audience. And those, every time I took the listen to the true questions being asked or the big problems and I focus on that, it always exploded a lot more exponentially wise than what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever had a situation, Scott, where you meet someone for the first time and then you start talking because they asked you a question, and within a minute you realize, I forgot their name already?
I think we've all done that.
I mean, we've all been there. And how does that happen? I mean, no one's ever come up to me and said, Randy, I remember your name, but I forgot your face. So what we focus on, we seem to remember more than other things. So, and clients are obviously a part of that. So what we focus on, we remember. So when you're thinking about your client, and you heard me give an example this weekend, one of the things we do when we talk with them, we do our fact gathering or finding. We'll ask them, what's keeping you awake at night? What problem? What obstacles are you facing right now in your business? If a year from now you were standing here and looking, what will you have accomplished and what would you have overcome? Those are little ways we try to get to that information. But if you listen, they'll tell you one thing. They'll give you the kind of like what I call it, the external. Well, if I did this, business was kind of down. So you're sitting here thinking, well, if their business is down, I could sell them this. So immediately you've taken, they're opening up, and you've immediately said, okay, what can I get from this now? Oh, I could sell them this. And that's what we do oftentimes. But the real sensitive or the caring marketer is going to dig a little deeper and find out, well, wait, that's what's on the outside. Maybe if there's something underneath that. So what does that mean, Randy, if you lost a little business? Well, if I lost a little business, it means I couldn't send my daughter to private school anymore. Oh, so the real problem this guy's facing is more than just a little lost business. So if you've got a solution that'll actually solve the problem that puts his daughter in school, I mean, is he going to buy that versus some guy that just sells him a lead? I mean, there's no question. And then you find out maybe that beyond that, he's comes from a belief that says if a man can't provide for his family, he's worse than an infidel. And so this guy's got a deep-seated, deep-rooted feeling of providing and provision. And so when you hear his problem, he's saying, I don't have enough leads. You could address that. But if you can show your solution, how it's going to provide for his family, dealing with that deep-seated, his reaction to you in relationship with you will be 10 times better than what he is to someone that's selling him. So we sometimes miss the golden opportunities to really provide the help because we don't listen long enough and don't ask the right kinds of questions to find out what people really, really care about. And you can't just jump in and say, Scott, now come on, what do you really care about? I know. We start getting it. We can't do that. We have to be sincere. We have to be sincere about it.
And I think a lot of people too, I know this has been a mine in the past, where you start hearing the same stories, you're working with clients and you jump to conclusions without listening a little bit more. And you can shoot yourself. I think we've all been, responsible for doing that. And I know I'll do that. And there's times like, look, listen, be quiet and just shut up. Turn your phone off these days, turn the distractions off and really be present in that moment. And I think that's one of the biggest things, whether you like him or not. One of our ex-presidents, Mr. Slick Willie, Mr. Bill Clinton, was always commenting on that wherever he was at, he was always in the moment. He could remember people's names. And that was one of the things that helped him build trust and rapport with people. You know what I mean? So whether you're Republican or Democrat, we can always learn. And then the same thing like George Bush, the first one, would always take time at the end of the day, along with Ronald Reagan, to write personal notes to people that they met along the way. It's that listening to people and hearing little things along what they share, their kids, their pets. Those are their favorite color, their favorite, recipe, something like that. Taking the time to listen will set you aside, because if you can mention that, people like, oh, they were really listening to me. And that builds such much trust along the way. So it's so easy to do if you just got to shut up and listen, though, huh?
Well, imagine you're talking about a debt instrument here, and I'm an investor, and I'm cautious, I'm not certain. But for 15, 20 minutes, you've been talking to me about my family and different things, and you're listening to me. And so now when we turn the key and we open the door and we're getting into the investment things now, whether I recognize it or not, I've already felt this guy listens. And so when it turns into something now where I have to make decisions and choices, I let my guard down a little bit, so to speak, because I've already learned that you listen. And most people can't open up until they believe that person cares a little bit. Before I'm going to tell you my deepest secrets about my finances and that, I've got to believe it's not only safe, but that it's worth my time to share it with you. So that listening element is, aside from just gathering information, it does a lot on the other way when that person sees you listening, what it does for them. It's huge. It's huge.
It is huge, definitely.
And that's one of those simple things that two people up there, one's highly successful and the other one says, I'm way smarter than him. I've been doing it longer. So why does that guy sell more than me? And they don't get it. And sometimes it's these intangible little things like listening, not being the hero. And, I don't know if we're on point 4, point 5, but one thing that in terms of mistakes people make, they do not practice the things that they say, and they do. They say things like, I'm better off if I wing it. And I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody that has done, worked in plays and stuff like that, the amount of practice. They don't go to that script for a Hollywood movie and say it the first time without probably 100 times practicing it. Their intonations to get their head right when they say certain things. They don't wing it. Professional speakers, how many times they practice that speech when you see it on TED Talks, 50, 100 times, every word, every pause is done so for effect. So if you and I are selling and marketing to think that, we're so good because we can think on our feet, that it's not better off if we practiced it and know it. Because if you practice and know it, which means then that's front and present in your mind. Now the listening, I can listen to you because I don't have to think about what to say because I already know what to say. That's in my mental capacity. But now my heart and my soul is engaged with what you're saying. And I can only do that if I don't have to think about what to say. So practice the things you're going to say. And for some people, that sounds so old school, but it's what people respond to, Scott.
It totally is. It's funny. Once a month, we'll do a banking blitzkrieg base where I'll dial for dollars for 4 hours or 8 hours in some cases, and I will Zoom it and we bring people on to watch. And I think back to when I first started calling banks back in 2007, 2008, and I practiced 50 times in front of a mirror before I actually made phone calls. And the guy in my next room over next to me, is a mortgage company, and Boyd was like, "Are you okay? Are you in there talking to yourself? Are you having off?" I was like, no, I'm just practicing. I'm role playing what I'm going to say or how I'm going to overcome an objection, or if they ask me a question, I know what to say, so I'm not stumbling over myself. And you're right. And I think a lot of people, they just think marketing, I'll just wing it in one thing. I'll just throw something up there and it'll be fine, versus practicing it and tweaking it and looking at it so that they actually look professional. It rolls off their tongue, or it rolls across the internet as professional versus just being hodgepodge and thrown together in a lot of cases.
And, instinctively, we know that. We see it. For example, you take an NBA basketball team and you take the All-Star game. The talent's there, the skills are there. But if you put an NBA team against the All-Stars that had practice and had plays, and let's say you ran a 2-minute drill, the team would destroy the other team. They practice it. They know what to do when certain things happen. The guys that are one-on-one experts wouldn't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm. Well, you think back to the great UCLA teams, John, you know what I mean? That stretch, and you look at their practice, it was the same thing, in and out. Ball barely touched the ground, but passing, no, it wasn't a lot of crazy shooting. It was a lot of that drills, that muscle memory of getting good at the little things over and over and over again. And they were one of the best conditioned and talented teams out there because they practiced what they preached. It wasn't throwing half court shots up or trying to dunk from the free throw line. It was all very simple. Although Bill Walton, an interesting character, obviously, but same thing. When he worked, everybody just worked that system and worked it, and it worked. And a lot of people don't put those systems in place and try to just hodgepodge it together.
Yep. I don't know if you've ever played basketball, but there's that point. It's kind of like on a 45-degree angle between the baseline and the top of the key where you're on an angle and you say, should I try to swish it or do I bank it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's that certain spot there when you go up and you turn around and look and you caught between. And John Wooden had his practice. There was a guy, Dave Myers, he played for UCLA, and I went to high school with him and played with him. And I talked with him afterwards, and he said, I can't tell you how many hours we spent in practice banking that shot. So when we got to that place, we knew we didn't have to think, it became automatic. And so again, that point that practice, when certain things become automatic, that means you're free now to think and focus on other things that other people aren't focusing on, which puts you in a better situation than all your competition.
Yeah, what comes to my mind thinking about that is the big fundamental who just made it into the NBA Hall of Fame, Tim Duncan. Was famous for his bank shots. I mean, he was automatic from that 45 spot or the top of the key on the free throw line, and practice. He wasn't out throwing 3-pointers, very, very banking in, and it was almost automatic for him. Wasn't sexy, but hey, winning 4 rings and making the NBA, that's sexy,
Yeah, that's sexy there. I'll take that any day. 5th point. It's along that same thing in terms of what can we do in terms of really the low-hanging fruit. And it kind of correlates with the one practicing here, is when someone asks you, Randy, what do you do? Scott, what do you do? So we'll say things like, and it's amazing. And I have to practice myself, because I usually say, well, I work with businesses all over the country, and in 45 minutes, I can show them $100,000 of additional revenue without spending another nickel on marketing or advertising. I've said that a million times. But there are times I'll be in a social situation, I go, oh, I probably shouldn't say that now. And then I fumble and then I say something like, well, let's just keep it simple. I'm a marketing guy. And they go, okay, great. And I shoot myself because I go, why did I say that? I know better. But sometimes we just don't want to engage or something, or we've never practiced it. And we miss that opportunity, because if I said the first one and that person's a business owner, they'll probably say something like 100K, really? And they advance the conversation. Or they'll say, really, how do you do that? They advance the conversation. Imagine if you sell real estate and they say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a realtor. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not buying or selling in their mind, so they dismiss them. Scott, what do you do? I buy debt. Oh, okay, thanks. And they're gone, because what I said had nothing to do with what they care about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can formulate, whether you want to call it an elevator speech, I call it a one-liner. I have a format that I teach to do that, but it's focused on what an audience that you serve cares about. And I've done this, and talk about, this is embarrassing sometimes. I've gone into a restaurant out here in Southern California. We have a place called, well, you have them in Texas, I think their home office is in Dallas, Corner Bakeries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go into the Corner Bakery and I'd sit down there, and there'd people after a while you'd recognize, and you'd walk up to them and say, excuse me, I'm working on my marketing program. Do you mind if I tell you, and I say my one-liner, and then when I'm done, can I ask you what you think I do? And they say, okay. And so I practice on it. And when I get done, if I don't get the right answer that I need, which is, really, how do you do that? Or 100,000, really? Then I know I need to refine it. I need to keep working on it. And I could tell you, out of 1,000 people I may have told that, I don't think 5 people still do it and have one that they regularly say. And even my coaching clients that I do, I test them every now and then. I'll come back and I'll say 3 or 4 months, tell me your one-liner. And they go, oh yeah, we did that, huh? And they suddenly realize that they haven't been doing it in a long time. And they miss the opportunity of really serving again, that says, here's what I do that can help you. And you lead with that. And if they're not interested, that's fine. You're not being offensive in any way, you know. And in fact, we can maybe do this. It'd be interesting to give you an idea, Scott, and, you know, putting myself on the line here, but give me a business and let's role play it for a second and show your audience here what this sounds like or could look like. And again, I'm winging it. We did not practice this, so I have no idea what. So pick an industry, and then tell me what it is, so I at least have a little bit of idea. Well, no, don't do that. So I do it this. Well, you need to pick an industry, and you need to ask me, and I need to do it. So you need to tell me to pick an industry, and I'll be that guy.
All right. Why don't we do? Let's just say podcast. You're a podcast production company. I don't know.
Okay, I'm a podcast production company. So we'll do the first one the way somebody might say it. So,
Randy, what do you do, bud?
Yeah, I'm the producer for a podcast production company.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, where can you go with that if you're hearing it?
Right. Podcast. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, I think of the guy in the guy in the hoodie where.
Yeah, you know, well, and as you and I have talked over the weekend when we were together there, I said, imagine when you asked me, I now have control of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I get to paint whatever I want to paint. You've given me carte blanche to do it. And as soon as I said, well, I'm the producer of a podcast company, it's kind of like blank stares. And now I've lost control of it because I have no clue how you're going to feel about that. I don't have any idea what you're going to think about that. And so now I don't know, whatever direction I go, it could be wrong. I could insult you. I could offend you. I could appear pushy to you. I don't have a clue what to do. So I have to move on. So I miss any opportunities there. And so people miss opportunities all the time because they don't do this. So let's do it again. And again, we're making this up on the fly.
Total off the wall here, but we're winging it.
Yeah, we didn't practice this time.
Let's do.
I'll do the same one again. So let me give you a different way of how I might create it.
Randy, what do you do?
Well, Scott, you probably know people that listen to podcasts sometime when they're driving to and from work.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, in my company, we work with people like that, and we present them a message that demonstrates that they know and understand their audience and gives them a way to sell and talk about what they do to where people get to respond to them.
Nice.
Now you're sitting here thinking, no, I made it up, and I'm not saying it's any good, but you can clearly say now, you go, well, yeah, I listen to podcasts. Would you help me? Or, yeah, my buddy listens to podcasts. What kind of podcast? And it opened up a conversation about something that people care about. Mm-hmm. And maybe not him, maybe his brother, maybe his sister, his wife, mom, who knows? But at least it gives me the opportunity to talk about what I do, because now I know generally people care about sharing a message. So I'm going to relate it to that. Now, if I know the audience directly, then I'll get more specific. So give another one. Let's try one more.
Let's say you're a real estate rehabber or a real estate investor.
A real estate investor. Okay. So the first one you say.
What do you do, Randy?
Well, I work in real estate, and I'm an investor, and I rehab homes.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of a realtor?
No. No.
That's. I don't know the reason to say that is that happens a lot. People say when you're an investor, I hear people all the time, oh, you're a realtor or you're a mortgage broker. You know, they don't take that. They don't spend the time to go through it. So, you know, I fix and flip homes. Oh, okay, great. Like flip this house, you know, HGTV, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let's do it again. Again, we're winging this.
Yeah. What are you doing, Randy? What do you do, Randy?
Well, you know, a lot of people, when they get to my age in life, we're trying to figure out how to augment our retirement, right? You know, make a little bit more so we got a little bit less. Well, I take homes that are somewhat distressed, and I find people that are interested in creating an income, and I'll rehab the home and allow them to create retirement income.
Nice. I like that. Wow. Well, and that leads to the next one. Really, you know, I'm investment. What kind of income are we talking about?
Yeah, how much can I make?
Exactly. Yeah. What, you know,
and again, now I don't expect everybody to be able to wing it like I just did. So, but you don't have to wing it. You get to sit and plan it out ahead of time. And if you don't have, this is one of those times where, well, if you were a basketball player and you couldn't shoot a bank shot, you go to your coach and say, Coach, how do I do this? Help me. So if you don't have, if you're working with Scott, Scott can help you do this. Scott, you got education. You show your guys how to do this. My guys, they call me and say, Randy, how do I do this? And I help them do that. It's a talent. It's a skill because we've been around a long time. And if you don't know how to do it. Ask somebody, get some help to get this done, because it'll make all the difference in the world.
It totally does. And that's part of the reason we came up with the tagline, turning problem properties into profitable solutions. And depending on where I'm at, I'll tweak that a little bit. The very last part, like I turn problem properties into profitable solutions for myself and my investors. And I'll shut up and that like, oh, investors, tell me more. Or we invest in real estate and split the returns with our investors. In the audience, I used that some this weekend when I was in Dallas or Denver with you, or last week. Time flies when you're having fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I never just say I'm just an investor, because that it's too broad, too generic in a lot of cases. So,
well, one of the things, and just a little quick hint, if you're doing this or anybody, is I often lead with, well, Scott, you probably know somebody with, and then I state the problem. Mm-hmm. So you probably know somebody that has invested in real estate, if that was what we're talking about here. You probably know someone that's that has rehabbed a house, maybe. You probably know someone that's flipped a house or used some language things. And then what I do, if that's a problem, I say, Scott, you probably know someone that doesn't have enough money in retirement, right? Well, we've got a process. I've got a process where we've solved that. And we can put money in your pocket so you can live not only a happy retirement, but you can do the things with your kids and your grandkids. And now people are sitting here. That's a whole different story than someone that says, well, I work with people and I invest their money. That doesn't really doesn't cut the same way. So if you can say, you probably know somebody with this problem, we have a process that solves that problem, which allows you to enjoy this. Mm-hmm. And if you just fill in those 3 blanks, if you did nothing else but that, you would have a great one-liner.
Yeah. And
then if you can, the shorter you can get it, the more concise, to where it just kind of, and you practice it, rolls off your tongue to where it sounds silky sweet. When someone hears it, like and again, not to repeat mine, but hey, I work with people all over the country, small businesses, and I show them how to find additional revenue up to $100,000 in 45 minutes or less without spending another nickel on marketing or advertising. Here's the problem. They need more business. They need more revenue. I show you how to find 100,000. That's the process, without spending another dime or another nickel or dime on marketing or advertising. So I just hit 2 of those things right there. And most people, then you can do it without spending any more money, $100,000. And everybody's got that problem of needing more revenue. So if you can hit those things in your little one-liner, and you practice it, as we talked about earlier, and you say it again and again and again, to where anytime someone says what you do, you get your wife to say it, you get your kids to say it, you get your staff to say it. And now you basically have a sales force going out there. And if the same message goes out to everybody, it becomes viral in your own little world. Mm-hmm. And if they hear the same message in all these different channels again and again and again, it sticks, where people hear that. I heard that before. Isn't that what that Randy guy said? Yeah, that's what he does. But if you change your message all the time, then nobody hears the same thing, and it doesn't get that stickiness. Mm-hmm. So create sticky. That's a great. Now, someone said, Randy, what do you do? I could say, well, you probably know people that struggle trying to figure out one-liners. Well, we have a process to create a really sticky message, so when people hear it, they don't ever forget it. Now, would that work? Would that resonate with a marketer that said, I need something kind of sexy and glitzy? Would that stick? And we just made that up. So it's not hard to do. You just got to if you don't do it all the time, you just got to practice it.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring something up there. Is you stick to it, you sticky to it. It's the same thing, same message. How frustrating it is when you see different messages going out by our clients, or people marketing different things. And I see this oftentimes when I'm going to meetup groups. People pull out a business card and they got like 5 things they do on it. They're jack of all trades and a master of none. I had a peer of mine who reached out. Oh, what do you think of me when you see my name? And people said below, confused, because he's trying to market 3 or 4 things online at the same time. I'm like, they're all different. I don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever read the book Story Brand, Building a Story Brand by Don Miller. It's a great book, and Don talks about clarifying your message. And one of the things he talks about there, he says, hey, if you confuse, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an analogy we often use. Imagine right there, Scott, you're sitting there and I throw you a bowling ball. That's one of the things I do. And then I throw you another bowling ball. That's another thing I do. Now you got to keep these 2 bowling balls in place. And then I throw another one at you. And now you're juggling 3 bowling balls. Well, what happens when I add one more thing to the mix? Something's got to give.
Something's got to give.
Something's got to give. So in that sense, don't confuse people and give them more bowling balls. And for my clients, I say, you and I need to be low cost to our clients, because people invest time, energy, and money to talk with us, to work with us, and to be with us. So if you can be as low as cost possible, it makes life really simple. And I love talking about marketing. So one of the ways we do that, imagine you get an email letter. Scott sends me an email letter and he says, Randy, we're doing all this stuff. And at the bottom line, he says, I put together this thing here. Could you go ahead and evaluate it? And it's 16 pages long. I'm not going to read his letter. I'm not going to go read a 16-page attachment. That's too high cost for me. But if he says, Randy, could we get together and talk about something and set up a time? Just reply yes or no. And I go, I can do that on my own. I can hit reply, yes or no, and I'm done. That's very low cost response. So be low cost to your clients. Make it really easy for them. So use language that's easy to understand. Do a one-liner and say the same thing. Makes it very low cost for them to support you, to endorse you, to refer you. Don't make your business so complicated they couldn't tell anybody else what you do.
Yeah, it's a huge thing in marketing. The old day of marketing with these long emails. The shorter the emails, was it 20 lines of text or less than 100 words a lot of times, or the 4-word or 9-word email? It's short and sweet to the point.
Oh yeah,
Makes it easy.
Yeah, those are fun it's actually really fun to write a letter like that, write how we're talking and you skip a line. It's almost like a little movie when you read those, when they're done well. And I think people enjoy them. So learn to write that way. Another great tip, Scott. Thanks. That's a great tip. Learn to write the way you talk and people will engage.
That's right.
Marketing's not overly complicated sometimes.
No, I think we overthink it many times.
Overthink it many times. Oh, we go to the internet. Go, look at these guys. Look at that page. I could never do that. I got to have to copy, 16 pages to write a sales letter. No.
Don't work that way at all. Randy, what's the best way for those that are listening to us to reach out to you, to have you help them with their business or their one-liner?
Well, the easiest way, in fact, it's should have a little sign here that points it up. I have a phone number that I use in my marketing. It's area code 714 and then 706-1040. And you can text it and just text the word Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 714-706-1040. And you're going to get a little message back. It's going to have my email address there, and it's going to take you to a website there and kind of explaining what we do and how we do that. And if you do that and you say, hey, when we talk, or if we do that, or just say something, Scott said something here, we'll send you out something. I've got a whole little one-liner little practice thing that takes you through those steps and how you can do it. In fact, just get Scott, if they get a hold of you, you can let me know, because I'm not sure if you text anything other than Randy in there, it'll goof that up, and I don't want to do that. But let Scott know you want that one-liner, and I'll get it to Scott. So get a hold of Scott here, and I'll send it off to him, and then he can forward it on to you. So just make sure you let Scott know you want that, and I'll make that available to you.
And also, if you're watching this on the replay, those numbers are below. They're in the comments. If you're listening to this, make sure you check out the full blog on this podcast. We'll have that all in the show notes and everything else there for you, along with his website and how to get a hold direct of Randy as well. Randy, this has been awesome, man. I've really enjoyed this. It's always, you never know, interesting people you'll meet in Denver.
Who knew?
Exactly. But that's one of the biggest things. I think so many people overthink it and they don't practice it. They don't have a plan. And honestly, that's one of your expertise. Help them unwind that and really kind of putting that plan in place for what they're trying to do matches up with what the message they're putting out, correct?
Absolutely, Scott. Well, thank you so much. It's been a blast talking marketing with someone that understands it and appreciates it. it's great to talk with you, period. And so thanks so much for having me on here. I've really enjoyed the time.
Yeah, same here, Randy. We'll have to have you back again at another time again. All right.
Good enough. I promise.
Awesome. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the No Closure Show. Check out Randy. Check out the show notes there. Listen to them. Listen to what we talked about there about kind of shortening your message or coming up with a short, simple, I don't want to say elevator pitch, but it is kind of that to let people really know, but also listen to your existing clients, listening to the people out there that are surrounding you. And don't forget to role play. Hey, sometimes role playing with your spouse, your mom, your dad, your wife, it can be really good things because a confused mind is a no mind. That's really what marketing is all about. Clearing up the focus of your message and what you're trying to do to help them and not help you. And if you do that, trust me, it'll pay off exponentially than you trying to go out there and just ram something down somebody's throat. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.